Today I'm going to be filming the Booktube Newbie Tag. So I've recently started putting videos on my YouTube channel. I've had it for a while and I sort of just followed booktubers before, but I wanted to have a go. So yeah, I thought this would be a good tag to sort of start off with. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? So for me, I started this channel because in my normal sort of day-to-day life, I don't have a lot of friends who enjoy sort of reading quite as much as I do. I've never really found people who are so sort of passionate about the books that they do enjoy and want to talk about them afterwards. Most often I'll lend people books and I'll have sort of nattered on about them for ages about reading it, and they'll read it and say, yeah, it was good, and that's it. And it's been lovely to watch people enjoy books and to see people sort of interacting on that level that I don't get in my day-to-day life. Number 2, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? So I think that the things I'm going to be bringing to Booktube I haven't seen so much of is I really like true crime. I really like reading books sort of about the horrible things that happen, but understanding why and understanding sort of patterns and the criminal mind. I find it absolutely intriguing, and I think it's amazing to see where these people have come from and how it's so often from abuse and sort of the legacy that domestic violence carries sometimes, and sexual abuse in childhood, and how it can lead to these things that are far out of the realm of what we consider normal. So I think, you know, not a lot of people talk about true crime on Booktube, or indeed talk about sort of true crime throughout YouTube. I haven't seen too many people who sort of talk about true crime and talk about the reasons behind it. Often it's more of a sort of voyeurism exercise in which you sort of look at images or that sort of thing, or it's either that or documentaries. So I think it'd be very interesting to be able to have a talk about that in light of the books that have been written. I also think a lot of the time they're really good books. An example would be Columbine by Dave Cullen. It's an amazing book, it's so well written. You read it and you feel almost as though you know the two boys who sort of committed it, and you feel as though, even though it's so horrendous, to a point you understand their psyche, and that's incredible. That's an amazing writing skill, to be able not just to turn people who don't exist into characters, but to turn people who've been demonised into characters with multiple sort of perspectives and things that actually they had their own lives outside of Columbine, and Columbine was a horrific act that happened to all of those children because of the psyches of two young men and the reasons that they were built the way they were. I think it's incredible. So yeah, that is probably the thing I'm going to bring to Booktube, or I hope to bring to Booktube, and I hopefully think you guys will be interested in it. I think you guys will find some of the same sort of interests that I find in it. Number 3, what are you most excited for about this new channel? So for me, as I sort of said at the first question, it's about that interaction with people. I'm really looking forward to being able to speak with you guys and to be able to reply to things if people sort of start commenting, and to be a part of something I've loved for a really long time. Question 4, why do you love reading? So for me, reading is, as I suspect it is for a lot of you, a bit of escapism. It's a little bit of being able to see things from people's perspectives and to sort of experience events you're never going to get the chance to, whether that's through, you know, a dystopian where you see, you know, end of the world scenarios that, you know, you're with little luck never going to experience, or whether it's just about a topic that you never knew about or a culture you've never visited or had much interest in, to be honest. So I think that's a big part of it for me. I think another part of it would be that I write myself, not so much recently, but I have done sort of throughout my life, and there's a lot to learn from other people's writing, about your own writing and about sort of what you like and what you don't like and how words fit, and I find that very interesting to sort of actually, you know, read it almost just for what it is as writing. Question 5, what book series got you into reading? Okay, so for me, I've read since I was very, very young, but the series that I read most of when I was a child was one called Animal Arc. It was a series of sort of very short novels or novellas about a young girl whose father was a vet, and it was about all the animals they sort of found and sort of how they looked after them and the stories behind it. And yeah, I really loved them. There were like 100 of them, I think. And I had all of them on this massive bookshelf just dedicated to this one series. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favourite booktubers? So for me, I think the question I'd want to ask would be sort of what are your favourite like book comforts? So for me, when I read, there's sort of other things that come along with it. They're sort of part of the reading experience. So personally, it's a good cup of tea and a cosy blanket. But I know for some people it might be reading on trains, or having a really quiet place, or having some soundtrack to it. And I find that really interesting to hear what everyone else does when they're reading. Number 7. What challenges when starting a booktube do you think will be the hardest to overcome? So for me, I think one of them is going to be editing. I've never edited anything before. I used to do a couple sort of sound edits for people. A long time ago I used to do some sound in sort of theatre when I was at school, but beyond that, nothing. So it's been a learning experience with the first video, and I suspect it'll be a learning experience here on in. I think also getting people to watch, to convince them I actually have something to say, that's pretty challenging. That's challenging in lots of different aspects of life, and here, it's almost more challenging because I'm not offering you anything back. I'm just saying, hey, watch me, maybe you'll like my ideas. So yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how I face those. Question 8. When did you start reading? So I started reading really young. I had kind of learned to talk to an extent by the time I was just about 1, and sort of understood the grip of basic language, and essentially my parents used to read me books before I went to sleep, even though I was probably too young to understand necessarily what was going on, but I loved them. Like, I absolutely loved them, and I used to sleep with books instead of comfy toys in my crib when I was a baby. Clearly I wanted to be able to read the books on my own, so my mum said she'd find me with the book open, sort of trying to fit the words she'd said to the words on the page, and it meant that by the time I was 2 I could pretty much pick up a children's book and read it for myself. Number 9. Where do you read? Okay, so I read mostly in either here in my room or in my office. So I have an office next door which I will show you. So in here is the other area I read. Either I'll read over here at my desk, or I have a little chair along with my TBR shelf that I'll sometimes curl up in, and sort of pop myself in here for an evening. Question 10. What kind of books do you like to read? So as I've already sort of said, I like to read true crime. I also really like crime novels, fictional crime novels, and thrillers and all those kind of things. I have a real soft spot for sort of literary fiction, I suppose you call it, and sort of it doesn't matter too much what the genre is, as long as there's the strong characters and the writing to carry it along. I find a lot of enjoyment through those sort of novels. I also quite like poetry, and not too many people here like poetry, so maybe that's something as well that I could add. I'm not a fan of historical novels or romance, so probably won't get much of that, but you never know, it might change. So hopefully you enjoyed my Booktube Newbie Tag, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.